American people are more Peter Pan than Japanese people. And
Okay.
by that, I mean, people are more dreamy. And I think the country itself has this tendency of giving people second chance.
Mm.
So the way they look at failure versus the way people here in Japan, Japanese people look at failure is significantly different, I must say, because Japan has such a heavy weight in failure. Like we take everything so seriously. So
Mm.
when you fail, the level of shame is like not comparable with American society, I would say. Like people would make you feel ashamed of your failure, and
Mm.
that makes people less courageous to take actions, I feel like. So if you're an
Right.
entrepreneur, yeah, bottom line is if you're an entrepreneur, this society could be harder to navigate through as an entrepreneur. But
Hmm.
in the at the same token, because you're so unique, if you're like entrepreneur and in Japanese society, like because you're so unique, it could also work in advance.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right. And the judgment you speak of, is it from like society in general, or is it more family and such?
I think society in general.
Mm-hmm.
And then once again, of course, everything has pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
So by us having that characteristic, one of the, I guess, downside of it is that, heavy judgment,
Mm.
but also the other side of it is we are more patient. I think people are more patient. People are more practical, like
Mm-hmm.
less dreamy, more practical, more patient. So it has a good thing to do. It has something good of it too. Like
Mm.
for example, let me tell you one story real quick.
Right.
Like the other day, I found out that like a lot of businesses, the lifespan of American companies are very short compared to Japanese companies, for example. Like
Mm.
there's even a company that lasts over 1,000 years in Japan.
Oh
Like
God.
it's crazy. So, it has pros and cons. I think each characteristic we have as a nation has pros and cons.
Yeah, of
So,
course.
so the Americans speak. Yeah.
Mm. Have you experienced this in your own life as well? The negativity and the judgment? Because you're obviously an
Judgment,
entrepreneur.
right? Judgment wise, I think so heavily because I almost got kicked out from my high school, and
Oh.
the first time I thought, for a long time, I didn't know how to interpret that. I thought it was just I was looking at the label of people telling me I'm a failure,
Mm.
right? Almost failing the high school. But now I think of it, I definitely recognize it as my first sign of me being me, like someone who wasn't afraid of being different, someone
Mm.
who was curious and follow the curiosity um, over insecurity, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was, yeah, one of the critical moment that also shaped who I am today.
Right. And did you have some kind of support system, like parents or loved ones or friends that kind of supported you through this transition and journey, or has it always
Mm.
been you?
I I think, yeah, not, I don't know if supporting is the right word in terms of like they didn't encourage me
Mm-hmm.
um to be me, but they were trying to fix me, right? Like fix me.
Right.
So yeah, I have such a like deep love for my parents because they literally gave me everything that they had.
Mm.
But and the same token, I feel like during that time, um, they didn't necessarily encourage me to be me, but they wanted to make sure that I become normal.
Mm. Okay.
So I don't know if it's a supporting. I don't know how to describe, but I also understand that they did it because they loved me.
Yeah, I think it's about, like you say, I think they're supporting you in the way that they know how to support.
Hmm.
I mean, I obviously I don't know anything about your family or parents, but from like listening to you now and hearing other people speak about the same things, I think there's obviously a big difference between generations, of course,
Hmm.
how different generations work, and are from 20 from the year 2000 and forward, and a bit earlier too, there's a lot of entrepreneurialism, I guess, and people want to dream bigger and achieve bigger things, and we don't necessarily want to go to this university, get a degree, and get a boring ass job somewhere and just be settled for life. We want to explore different ways, and that kind of conflicts or creates a conflict, I think, between certain generations and certain individuals. And that's kind of what you said about fixing you, kind of conforming you and putting you into the box that they know work. Well, in reality, it's a new time and it's a new generation.
Right. And like you said, especially when you have that either entrepreneurial tendency, or if you are an entrepreneur, like, it's actually, personally, I want to recommend people not to listen to parents. I want to recommend people not to listen to school, not listen to teachers, because I mean, when you are in a market, there's no rule. And if you do everything that people do, you're going to lose. Like, you have to, as an entrepreneur, you have to have the brain to think differently. You have to also be bold. You have to be courageous, because you're literally, like, you're most likely to be the first in the line, right? Like, when you're an entrepreneur. So you have to be comfortable with that comfortability. So I think that period definitely gave me the test for me to have that uncomfortability, you know? And
Right.
I think my dad definitely, though, my dad's side, because he's entrepreneur too. He was more chill. Like, he didn't worry too much. He was like, like, don't try to make your mom worry. Like, you know, you're gonna be fine, but like, don't try to make your mom worry. And my mom was more like, oh my God, like, what the fuck are you doing? Right? Like, so I think it makes sense. Like, it's entrepreneurship thing, I think.